Satnam, I'm Lillian Savoy, and I'm here with you today because I'm getting called to talk to you about how an independent woman can be supported by the universe, by herself, by the others in her life in order to make the necessary changes needed. And what's coming in for you, right? What's coming in? What are you listening to? What are you trying to put into place but need help doing? So I keep having women come in to coach with me that are a reflection of me. And that's what happens, right? We receive the clients that we need in order to know, number one, how far we've come. Number two, how to help them because we have the tools, right? And number three, it's fun to meet a mirror version of yourself, right? Because then it teaches you what is also left to do and what you need to learn too. I remember my first psychic teacher would tell me, if you've been getting the message all week from your clients, that message is for you. That is not for them. That was for you. And I was like, God, this is so cool, right? People are paying me to give messages for me. That's what I thought way back in the day, right? But what happens is that we're both helping each other in a coaching situation, right? So they come and then you know how to help them. And then you know how to help yourself by the end of the week. Okay, so fast forward to the independent woman that has been working since she was 14. And she's always had kind of support from her family as far as love, care, the occasional money, credit card debt problem. Yes, I'm talking about me. Okay, so I've always worked. I remember my first job at an orthodontist office, and I have these memories of like what I did, but he still reminds me of like what I really did do. But I wanted to be the person putting on braces way back then. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But having, babysitting was probably the first, then the real job with a real paycheck at 14. And I haven't stopped working since until March of 2023 when I dislocated my shoulder. And this was such a tragic event for me. I remember thinking like, WTF, why is this happening to me? I'm in the best shape of my life. I have my yoga certification. My business is booming. I'm loving coaching. I'm fulfilling my passion. I'm helping people. I'm changing lives. And then boom, shoulder just pops out of place. Client takes me to the emergency room. I have full-blown surgery. And I had to reflect immediately about my life. What am I doing that caused that? What was the message in the shoulder that I missed? Because I've always had kind of shoulder problems because I was a snowboarder and a dancer before that. And so, you're doing tricks, learning tricks, and on both sports, right? So I've subluxed my shoulder many times, even in yoga, doing the dancer pose, subluxing when I shouldn't have been subluxing my shoulder. So 20 years of shoulder problems, and it falls out when I'm 47, right? So at that point, just 2.5 years ago, I was remarried. So, because a lot of my friends and clients, when I'm like, you need to slow down and really receive the messages that your spirit guides are giving you and meditate on them. Well, that sounds ludicrous, right? To an independent woman, especially single mothers. I work with a lot of single mothers too on mindset and stuff. So to slow down, to not make money, and to get the messages, they think I'm crazy. But what happens is that if we don't slow down and get the message and meditate on it and really connect with our spirit and our purpose, then something tragic happens, which I think that's why my shoulder happened, is because I was full blowing and going. I was, revolving door clients, doing group programs, doing in-person classes, getting my yoga certification, really like in this driven field, which a lot of women get in their 40s because first of all, we feel like we have limited time. And second of all, in our biological clock, there is this drive that comes in our 40s that we want to actually achieve our purpose in this lifetime. And so we do everything that we know to do, right? We drive, we save, we spend wisely, we sock away for college, we, shop discount, whatever it is that your lifestyle is like, that's what you start doing. But that shoulder injury, what it did is it forced me to be still for, I think they keep you in the sling for 3 weeks and then you start physical therapy. It forced me to be still, which I am not a still person. And then it forced me to really look at how much energy am I putting out for clients, right? If I'm seeing them hourly, hour and a half, 2 hours at a time, how much energy am I putting out? And are they putting the same amount of energy out? So is it an equal exchange? Or am I coaching and doing the work and they're going home and feeling so good because we've entangled the energy? So then my energy is out, their energy is great. So that's an imbalance. All this stuff started coming in when I was actually still. And I was thinking, oh, whoa, okay, like I have a lot of clients that are doing amazing and a lot of friends that are doing amazing, and I'm not doing amazing. So what needs to happen? And my guides and my spirit just kept saying, you have to slow down. And I would be like, how am I going to pay for the house? And how am I going to pay for college? And how am I going to put stuff in my retirement? How am I going to buy stuff? Well, everybody would say, well, you have a husband. Well, okay, but that's not the setup that we had. So on a second marriage, we came in, I had my shit, he had his. I have my house, he had his. So my bills just didn't go away when I got married. I still had paid my bills. He paid his bills. And then we had our bills, right? His, mine, and ours. Who's in that situation? So that'd be great if I was in that situation where either me or him could pay all of our bills, but we're just not in that routine yet, and we may never be. Who knows? I don't know what the future holds, and neither do you, right? So why are we just in this little pattern of work, 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 give, 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 receive, 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 don't take a break, because then we'll not pay our bills or not be able to have all this supposed income. But what are we giving up for that, right? So we're not meditating for 20 minutes a day because we think we should be doing marketing, right? Or socializing, and then we're not, we're spending that 20 minutes getting our dopamine fix from our phone instead of maybe writing or creating a new program, or just going outside in the backyard and watching birds, or drinking your coffee in peace without scrolling, without calling a friend, without picking up the phone if the friend calls you. There's so many opportunities throughout the day where I was taking care of other people, including family, including myself, that I wasn't being still to receive the messages. And I remember Andre always saying, like, oh, you're going to take your nap, but I would meditate for 45 minutes to an hour. And I would meditate, read a card, an oracle card, get my message, reflect on that message, which was 99% about work and career. And then I would take my nap, my 20, 25-minute nap, because it would always zonk me out because I was working, overdoing it, overworking. So at what point are we going to wait until the crisis hits you? Then we have time to sit still and get the message and maybe revamp our life. So in this 2.5 years, I have completely revamped my life. And I haven't done it on my husband's income. I have been very creative, right? I have manifested, and that word is overused, but it still works, right? So I have manifested money and portals and support and adventures in all different types of areas, which maybe I wouldn't have done had I had someone paying all my bills. So I'd manifest big birthday presents. I'd manifest discount stuff. I'd manifest, just random things. Like, I did end up renting out my house, which was an 11-year of I telling myself I was never going to do that. And I did end up renting it out. And it's been such a blessing. So that was like a huge block in my space. I actually was able to save money during the time that I wasn't working, which is so weird to me because I'm a terrible saver. But now I can't really have that story because I was able to save. And I was able to put some money aside for college. And I was able to buy my new gadgets, like my ozone machine and my brain reprogramming machine. And I'm always buying something to heal the body. So I am a saver. So my story has changed also in the 2.5 years. I used to be a spender. Now I do know how to save and I can save. And it's a mindset shift. And then as far as having a backup, yes, like a husband was great for backup, but we have to be our own backup. We have to take time to really know that the backup is our universe, whatever you call it, universe, God, the trees, Mother Nature, Mother Earth. That is our backup. And what do we want to co-create with our backup? Do we always want to be working? Because then that way we don't really have to solve the emotional problems that hide inside of us. Do we want to always be independent and never have a backup? Because I can tell you from my perspective, the reason why I didn't want my husband to be like my financial backup is because my ego could definitely not handle that. Like I said, I've always worked. I was even the breadwinner in the first marriage, right? Not in my second. But that doesn't like sit well for me for someone just to pay all my bills. But could that be an old story? I'm thinking it could be because now at this age, maybe I would like for someone to pay my bills. I'm just kidding. I just can't. It's just not in my blood. So it is fun to think about, like, going on an unlimited shopping spree. And my mom and I always laugh that it's easier to spend someone else's money, right? And that's the part about being the parent where you're like, God, my kid is living my best life on my paycheck. And my mom and I still laugh at that because I lived my best life on her paycheck and my grandparents. And I got to travel the world. And so I want to provide those same things for my kids. And so I probably will never retire, but slowing down and getting the messages really helps me align myself with what I should be doing to help other people, right? Because if our mission in life, if you look up kind of any, ancient healing book or initiation book or ancient yogi book or ancient, anything pretty much ancient, it says like our human purpose, like when we reincarnate, our human purpose is to help others. Right? So that is why we do the things that we do. So how do we know how to help others if we don't sit and be still and take care of our own shit first? So the shoulder, I was so resentful for a while, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, it allowed me to go back to school and think about what I really wanted to do in the second half of my life. And yes, okay, I am not making as much money as I used to make with the revolving door of people. However, I'm still able to save more and I'm spending less and I'm happier. So that's 2.5 years. So for us to have the money story of I won't have enough to pay my bills or I won't have enough to pay my mortgage or I won't have enough for this, That is all valid. However, it is just a story that we're telling ourselves. I told myself that, and just ask yourself if you're telling yourself that, as far as, what is our money attachment story? So my daughter's having it right now. Okay, she has 3 jobs, she's in full-time school, and her anxiety is through the roof. So guess what kind of client I'm attracting? Okay, other mothers with their kids in college that their anxiety is high, and they're asking me what I'm doing. So what am I doing? I'm doing the same thing that I did before with my shoulder surgery. I'm being still. I'm connecting to her higher self. I am setting strict boundaries as far as what I can give and what I can't give. And I am also letting go and doing some kind of ceremony as far as, so the easiest ceremony for me right now to let go of any anger or frustration or anything is lighting a match. I have been lighting a match every day, just so when I light my incense to make my room smell good and to clear the energy and clear the space, then I look at the match and I just look at the flame and let go whatever is bothering me. That could be for you, that could be illness. It could be a dis-ease. It could be a frustration with your family members, your kids. So burning that frustration, that agitation, that emotional exhaustion tells our body like, okay, let's burn that so we don't hold on to it. Because when we hold on to it, it gets trapped in certain body parts, which is for me, I was holding the burdens in my shoulder. I didn't even have to do anything strenuous before it came out because it was a release, an emotional release. And then from that, I got all of the work that came with it, the new mindset work, the new money story, the talks with my husband about, do we want to, who wants to be the breadwinner and who wants to work more and who wants to do this and who wants to pay these bills and who wants to save and who wants to plan for retirement. So all those conversations with my husband came up from the shoulder injury. And so that allowed us to get on the same page because, when you're raising kids, we had 5 kids in the house. When you're raising kids, you have to go on date night so that you can actually have an adult conversation and talk about our last conversation was our living will, right? We had to get our living will done and talk about who's living this on their, 401k and their life insurance and who's leaving this. And it's complicated. It's complicated being an adult. But at the same time, if you talk about it and you do let those conversations come up, then they're over and they're done, which has been so nice. So who knew a shoulder could bring us so many money talks, right? One release of the shoulder, which really the shoulder is carrying burdens of yourself, your own burdens, but other people's burdens too. And then I can't remember who told me this, but one of I think it was my massage lady, but she said, like the shoulder, if you hold out your hand, you're pushing away things that are trying to come to you and you're holding back on the other ones, right? And I was like, that made so much sense because Spirit was trying to give me messages before my shoulder popped out, right? Saying, maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you should slow down. You've built up this community, you've built up your community that you like, but you want to do different things. You want to do different things. So there's never a good time to do good things as far as different things. If you want to pivot in your career, there's always time to do good things. Okay. But I'm talking about a pivot in your life, in your career, in your scope of practice, in your mindset. There never feels like it's going to be a good time to pivot. Never. So remember that. Okay, so what do you want to do differently in your career? What do you want to do differently in your love life? What do you want to do differently in your body? What do you want to learn? Where do you want to grow? Because there's no good time for you to be like, well, I think I'm going to go back to school and be a doctor. Or I think I'm going to fire all my clients and try something new. Or I think I'm going to travel for a living and sell all my belongings. I mean, your brain, my brain, would have a heyday with that, right? So instead of actually entertaining the heyday and the ego and all these things that came in, I caused an injury to do it for me. And if we take responsibility for bringing in those traumas, those unfortunate circumstances, it makes it a whole lot easier to connect with spirit and then talk with spirit to understand what you're meant to do in this lifetime. And also knowing that you can pivot or change that at any time. So I'm already on my new path, okay, which I love, and it's totally different. I don't just see hourly clients anymore, hour and a half clients, and I really don't do any group classes in person anymore so I'm doing more of like retreats that are not here. I'm doing more global webinars and classes, and I'm really deciding who I want in my space more. And it has magically come together. It has been a long time. It's been 2.5 years. But I did decide to go back to school, and I did want to learn some new things. And I'm obsessed with learning about natural medicine and what is out there. And I've been practicing a lot of things and helping people in a completely different way. But when it comes down to offering services and working and helping people and having these great conversations with clients and really being so, I don't know, it's just magical. At the end of the day, I still need to sit and be still and say, okay, was today the type of day that I want repeatedly or that I desire repeatedly? Is today the type of day that I want to build my business around? Or is this what I want my business to look like? Is this the kind of people I like? Is this the kind of people I want to help? At the end of the day, I'm still sitting down deciding what is best for me, because that breath inside of us is our spirit. That's what keeps us alive. And without acknowledging and talking to that spirit, we are literally just rolling the dice. Because if our spirit gets unhappy, our spirit can check out at any time with a quick brain aneurysm, a quick heart attack, a quick car accident. Our spirit can check out at any moment. And I don't want that to happen to me, because I truly want to live to be an old lady. Not everybody does, but I want to be a healthy old lady with grandkids and great grandkids, and I want to see the world. I'm not even close to being done. Again, I'm talking to my spirit and negotiating, hopefully, right? And with my co-creator, with the universe, like, okay, am I listening to all of the messages? Am I receiving the messages? Is my spirit happy? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently to feel different? To feel happy, to feel joyful, to feel rich, to feel mentally well? What do I need to do to get there and to feel that? So I just really want to empower you to, number one, talk to your spirit. Okay, She's inside and she has your whole life mapped out. Okay, now spirit, God, universe, use what you want. Talk to that sweet voice, not your ego, not your brain, your spirit that will map out your life with you, co-create with you to decide, what does your career look like? What does your body look like? What does your life look like? And then go back through and what does your body feel like? What does your life feel like? You know, so the feelings are behind the actions. And we know this about the human race, right? The feelings are behind our actions. So are you taking the time every day to tap into those feelings, whether it's gratitude, purpose, laughter, happy, sad, mad? What are those emotions trying to teach you? What are those emotions trying to tell you? How can you shift or pivot in order to connect to those higher vibes? They're out there. And stories and attachments and other people's opinions, all of that matters, but it doesn't matter. It matters because it might keep you stuck. It might keep you paused. It might keep you sick. So that's how it matters. But it doesn't matter if you are empowered to make your choice based on what you are hearing from your spirit in a positive way. Remember, the spirit is not angry, sad, angry, mad, ego. You should. It doesn't do any of that. So if you're talking to that voice, that's or ego. The spirit is the gentle, sweet nudges, like, you can do this, and I got your back, and you are supported. Whether that comes from a husband, a boyfriend, a lover, a family member, a friend, it doesn't matter. Someone is your backup. Someone, something, all of it is your backup plan, right? All of it is your support system if you allow it to be. Doesn't have to be a best friend or a family member. It can just be a random stranger that supports your thought, your belief, your mission. So let's just try something and try to burn your frustration and your anger around something that is bugging you. And then pull a card for yourself and ask, what guidance do you need? In any oracle deck that you have, pull a card and ask for what guidance do you need? And then step 3 would be, let's take an action step, some kind of action step. It could be sending, if you have the family of non-approval, all right, so if you have, let's just say, a critical family or a family of non-approval, or you're the black sheep, or they think you're weird or whatever, practice sending a text saying, hey, I'm going back to school to go get my doctorate, and then see what the response is. And then your homework in that is to not care about that response if it's negative, and to send back a positive response if it's positive. Okay, so that alone, that little tiny step can be life-changing, because sometimes we are in non-validating families and we have to be okay with doing what we desire to do in this lifetime, no matter what. So that's a good practice. And then try to just have a few minutes a day and reflect on your day with gratitude and love, but also ask your spirit, like, okay, am I getting this right here? Does this feel right? Did today make me happy? Did today bring me a sense of joy? How was my mindset today? Was I positive or was I negative? So just have that open conversation with your spirit and just see what comes in. And if I were you, I would write it down. Just because I write everything down, I Google Doc it, or I diary it, or I get a notebook and just write it down, because I will forget. So, and I love to go back and think like, oh my God, I did major work that day. And it took me like 10 minutes. And then I had this whole epiphany of what I'm going to do with my life. And so when I'm doing that in 3 years from now and I go back to look at that notebook, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. This was amazing. And it starts with just a little bit of quiet time, talking to your spirit every day. So I just hope that this helped in any way connect you to your independent, driven self, to your guiding system of your beautiful spirit, and all the shit in between. You get to decide if they're just false, if they're stories, if they're injuries, if they're past traumas, and what needs to go and what needs to stay and what needs to pivot. So, Satnam, have a beautiful day or night, and I wish you the best.